Hey, thanks for tuning in. Real quickly, before we get started, I'd like to thank my friends at Tattoo SEO for making today's episode possible. Tattoo SEO specializes in search engine optimization for tattooers and tattoo shops, so they help you to come up higher in organic online search results for people looking to get tattooed in your area. That's kind of a generic explanation. What they can really do is to help put the clients who are looking for your type of work in front of you. So whether you are a street shop trying to just bring generic business through the door, or a single person private studio focused on large scale custom tattooing, they can drive the customers looking for what you do directly to your door. Now, something else that Tattoo SEO does that I think is invaluable and really sets them apart from any competition is that they can promote you for short periods of time wherever you may be traveling. So if you're like me and you travel to do guest spots or to work at tattoo conventions, they can promote you leading up to the actual event that you're working to ensure that you're actually tattooing at the show rather than twiddling your thumbs and watching everyone else tattoo. I'll give you a real life example. So last year I was offered a booth at a show in Arizona about 3 weeks before the show was actually taking place. So I wanted to go and tattoo, but I hadn't promoted myself for that show leading up. So I had no clients in that part of the country and didn't want to sit around and not tattoo. So I reached out to my buddy Tony Sink at Tattoo SEO and asked if they could help to promote me in the short period of time left leading up to that event. And lo and behold, I was booked solid by the time the event got there. I tattooed all weekend and it was a complete success. So whether you're going to do a week-long guest spot in Southern California, doing a tattoo convention in New York City, they can help to promote you for those periods of time leading up to the events. That is a huge, huge benefit for working with Tattoo SEO. So I definitely recommend that you give these guys a shot by clicking the link below and signing up. You will get 50% off of your first month if you mention that you heard about them on Fireside. Thank you guys for supporting what we do and enjoy the episode. Would you like to do the honors?
Oh.
Give us the old clap. Beautiful.
It sounds good too.
It does. Feels good.
Yeah.
We didn't
I'm
put
sure
your
my
name.
form was off, but that's all right.
No, it was perfect. I think you nailed that. Hey, welcome to the Fireside Tattoo Podcast. Do you want to say the rest? The official
podcast of the Tattoo Improvement Network?
No, it's the Fireside Tattoo Network. Oh, son of a bitch. Cut.
I'm still not used to.
You notice that it still says Tattoo Improvement down here.
Yeah.
It's an old banner.
Yeah.
We actually take two. We actually still have the domain Tattoo Improvement. So if you go to Tattoo Improvement, it'll just go to
Just jumps you over.
Yeah. I'm Jake. This is my buddy Million. He's been taking care of me all weekend long. You guys might remember him from another episode. Was that a year ago? 2 years ago? What do you think?
It was Evergreen 5, and we got Evergreen 7 coming up in March. So
Year and a half.
something like that.
Yeah. And this is our, we're shutting down Roughrider Tattoo Expo here in, I'm going to try it, Fargo,
North Dakota.
North Dakota. Yeah,
North Dakota.
You don't say tattoos. I'm terrible at that. It's like when anyone does a Southern accent. There's a new show called Bluff City Law that's about Memphis. It's like a regular, like L.A. Law or whatever, but it's set in Memphis. And what's that guy's name? Jimmy what? Jimmy Smits is trying to do a Southern accent. It's just like, oh, God, dude. Just pretend that you...
Way too over the top.
Yeah, just pretend that you relocated to Memphis. Don't act like you're from Memphis.
Well,
That's
when
terrible.
I fly into a place, the first thing the Uber driver usually asks is, where are you from?
Yeah.
Because they can't tell until I say North Dakota, and then they hear the Dakota. And then, bam, they just start giggling right away. They're like, I've seen that movie.
So I want to talk about a couple of things. First, I want to thank you for help. I mean, for this whole trip, you've supplied me with all my supplies. You've chauffeured me around, and not just this trip. I appreciate all of the interaction, the comments on the channel. I can always guarantee that you're going to make a comment and have something to add to the conversation on YouTube.
I try.
And I appreciate that, man. I really do.
Well, I appreciate you.
Yeah,
like I said, like I've told everybody before, you're half the reason I know the people I know is because of your channel. Led me into Impact, which led me to meeting all these people that I know. So, yeah.
Oh, really?
It's cyclical.
Did my channel lead you to Impact?
Yeah, because Mel was on there. I had heard about it, but Mel was on there with the interview.
That's right.
And then I was like, well, fuck, Jake's going to vouch for it.
Yeah.
So, I
that bit us in the ass year two, but it was great year one.
Yeah, year one was freaking amazing. So
Yeah.
and then
yeah.
that's how I actually met you, because we were sitting in the bar. You walked in. I said, "Look at the head on that one," and you look like you were gonna spin and run.
I don't even know what "look at the head on that one" means. It must be a North Dakota
from
thing.
some movie.
Yeah, I didn't realize
sure.
that. I do remember Mel had come to Memphis. She took Nick Baxter was doing a painting workshop. She came at my studio. She came and took the workshop, and we got her to do a little promo for her. So that all makes sense. I didn't know that. I mean, I knew that we met at Impact, but I did not remember that you were introduced to Mel through the show.
Yeah.
So
I'm just paying the show back.
yeah, man. I appreciate that. So one thing I wanted to talk about. This weekend we've kind of had a theme of developing your style in tattooing, and that's kind of an ongoing theme, in the show. But I did a seminar on Thursday leading up to this convention about that, and you had some things to add, and you have been making kind of a deliberate. I don't know if it's a transition because you're still doing some other style work too, but I'm
still doing whatever my clients want.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to push into a more challenging arena for me in realism.
Yeah. More kind of color realism.
Yeah, color realism specifically.
Yeah. And so what, a couple things. First off, what made you decide realism? Just because of the challenge?
No, the challenge was what sold me on it. What made me drive is when I actually took the time to realize who I was stopping and looking at. When I'd go through the Instagram feed or everything like that, and I have a lot of artists, not fine artists that I follow, and I was always stopping at realist artists, traditional realism or
who are some of your favorite realist not just tattooers, realist artists that you keep up with?
I mean, I guess Richard Smith's kind of more of an abstract, but Richard Smith, Casey Baugh, David Chaffetz.
Yeah.
I never know how to pronounce.
Have you ever bought any of his workshops?
Yeah, his Gumroad.
Yeah,
I
really
bought
good.
all of them.
Yeah, I really love them.
I went and bought the palette knife, and it really is a lot more flexible.
Where does his palette knife come from?
What is that painting company? It's a Japanese palette knife, but the steel on it is so much thinner and so much more flexible than any other palette knife.
Huh.
So you can actually feel as the paint touches the canvas. So you're not even really bending it. You're actually feeling the paint hit the canvas.
Huh.
So it's pretty nice, but I wish I could remember.
Do you follow an Instagram page? It's a palette knife builder out of I can't think of where he is, but it's called Oak Blade. Oak Blade.
Not until after this episode.
Yeah, check him out. He's doing a lot of one-offs, but he has a lot of really interesting shapes, kind of like you're saying, super super flexible. It's funny though, his handles are just rolled metal. They're incredibly simple and they're very thin.
Yeah, so I have some Italian palette knives that are simply just the metal that's bent, and then it's like almost like a butter knife handle.
Yeah.
And then they bend that and then flatten out the other end and blade the other end, and those are nice, but they're not quite as
comfortable,
as soft as that one that David
gotcha.
Chaffetz said. And it took me about a month to get it.
Oh, really?
When I ordered it, yeah.
They're just on back order?
Yeah. It was tough to get, but
okay. What about from a tattoo standpoint? Who realist artists who you keep up with, or do you?
Yeah, I mean all the big ones, from Alex DePasse and Nico Hurtado, of course, and I've gotten to know Pooch a little bit, so.
He was a great guy when we had him on. It was a good episode.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch.
So many.
There's a bunch. So you've been doing. You posted a couple of really nice drawings recently that you're using some of Joshua Carlton's photo reference.
His photo reference, yep.
Yeah.
And then just colored pencil on toned paper.
Oh yeah. What kind? What tone paper? Like grays, mid grays?
The tan tone from Strathmore.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So
yeah. So what are you finding that you're learning by doing those studies and trying to translate it to realism?
Being able to see.
Yeah.
What I'm actually being able to actually see what is on there, because when it's on my drawing table, I can leave it up there. I don't have to worry about cleaning up the paint later, anything like that.
Yeah.
But I can leave it sit, go home, come back the next day, and look at it with fresh eyes. and look at both the reference and that, and just really being able to match back and forth between the two and make sure that I'm actually seeing what is there instead of what my brain is trying to fill in.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the big challenge to overcome.
Right.
Like,
So that's my biggest practice right now. And then not so much the color manipulation, but a little bit of color mixing, because I'm only using like 36 colored pencils. I'm not using like the full range of. I'm trying to limit what pencils I get to use as well. So
yeah.
I just building a lot of challenges in it, trying to teach myself more than anything. So
Learning how to layer color over color to achieve whether you're trying to desaturate something or
the nice part about that toned paper is it's a little more durable, so I can fight with it a bit. But once it flattens out, at least with the polychromos, and then I put it on foam core. I tape that onto foam core and put it on my drawing table. Once that flattens out, it's done. So you can work it longer than you could skin, but you got to get your layers in there before the paper rips through.
Oh, yeah.
So that kind of helps a little bit, but you're still able to work it a little longer. Just figuring out what the colors are actually instead of what I think they are.
Yeah. Starting from the beginning, are you laying out shapes as line mostly? Or are you blocking in masses a little more? How do you approach the drawing?
The drawing
on?
itself,
like sight size kind of
I'm
stuff?
using sight size, and then I'm doing a light drawing with a Coley-Race pencil, a Prismacolor Coley-Race.
Coley-Race?
Coley-Race. It's an erasable colored pencil. It's a student grade erasable colored pencil.
Oh, okay.
But then I can kind of lay that down. If a lot of times I'll use like that Tucson red they got, and on that toned paper looks a bit like I'm working with like a raw sienna or something, as trying to do an underpainting. But I'll lightly draw that in just to kind of get my reference points, and then I'll start with my tones.
Yeah.
Try to get my middles or mid-tones laid in, and then start blocking in my darks, and then just kind of keep going back and forth and try to. I've been really focusing on trying to work each section instead of jumping into the whole thing, which is really tough for me because I've used charcoal for so long, and that's all it is. Block in your tones and pull out the details, and block in more, pull out more details. So that's been kind of a challenge
What
to
made
do
you
like
take that approach?
typewriter stuff.
Yeah.
I just seen so many guys doing it. I figured let's give it a try on paper and see how it works.
Yeah. You've seen so many guys doing it
tattooing.
Yeah.
Where they're literally just, and there's a lot of realism artists, like especially some of the hyper-realism artists, where they'll block in a shape, and then they'll render the hell out of that spot and then move on to the next spot. And then once they get that first painting done, it looks finished. But then they'll go back in and do that same thing all over again.
Yeah.
So
are you getting it? Is it helpful? How long have you been doing it long enough to know whether or not it's working for you?
Month and a half, 2 months, I think. I've had some hiccups in the road family-wise, so I haven't really been able to buckle down here in the last few weeks. But otherwise, no, it's been every day for the last couple months. So I'm not seeing it translate into my tattooing yet necessarily, but I do feel like I'm seeing better.
Yeah.
Which is really all that. Technique will only get you so far. If you can't see it.
Yeah. There was a quote that I pulled from Daniel Sprick, but I forget what it was now the other day in the seminar. Like we see what our conditioning is that what it is? We see what our conditioning allows us to see.
Right, something like that.
Yeah.
And, so he's really kind of the direction I want to go in tattooing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, where we have some of that realism with more abstract outside, but not quite so dynamic as somebody like Jay Freestyle or something like that, where they have all this explosion of different stuff. Just a more subtle kind of effect, and basically make it look like it is, as crazy as the watercolor thing is right now.
Yeah.
But basically make it look like oil paint on canvas.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's somewhere that's a goal I'd like to go to, but I mean, it's just a target right now. It's not necessarily a place where I'm definitely going to end up. but
Yeah.
it's a target I'm shooting for.
I think we're shooting towards a really similar target. That's what I love about Dan Sprick. One of the things, and I like we were talking about in the seminar the other day, that the ability to render something to show like almost a photorealism,
Right.
and then let a piece of it fall. Not so much that it's distracting, but let some of it fall back to where it's so obvious the medium that you're using.
Right.
So whether it's oil paint for Dan Sprick or whether it's needle marks for us or whatever, or maybe
Exactly.
the illusion of oil paint for us, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that.
It reminds me a lot of those first batches of Photoshop, especially in the newer Photoshop packagings, where they are showing more of an artistic expression on. So
Yeah.
they got a female face and then a bunch of stuff blowing up off of it.
Oh, yeah.
And I was seeing that a lot,
Yeah.
and it really fell into. So Photoshop's been doing it, but it's a hell of a lot easier in Photoshop than it is in
Right.
tattoo or painting. So
Yeah, I found a super cool trick. There's a guy that was, I think his brush set was just like Kyle, something real generic. His name was Kyle. I think it was like Kyle Brushes or something like that. And he has all these.
yeah,
Do you know what
yeah,
I'm talking about?
Kyle's brushes. You get him
Yeah.
on Gumroad. He's got
Yeah, not anymore. Now he works for Adobe now, so they all come in Photoshop already. But
So that's why I
one
don't
that-
get emails from him anymore.
Yeah.
The new Photoshop brush.
Yeah,
update.
he got hired on full time by Adobe, and now all that stuff that we were buying is now actually built in. You can go download it.
Yeah, there is some that because I did see that Kyle's in Photoshop CC. There is some Kyle brushes, but
Yeah.
I just thought they were the ones that I downloaded that automatically transferred.
Yeah, no,
They're part of the
They're part of the
package.
package now. But one that
Even
I
better.
one that I lost, and I actually emailed him about it. And he was like, "You shouldn't have lost it; it should still be there." But it's just like a palette. It was a palette smudge kind of tool. I forget what it was called, like clear smudge or something, where you basically could just grab the actual photo. You didn't have to paint on it, and you could grab it and drag with a palette knife. So I could take, I would do those flowers that are kind of painterly that have
Right.
like I could just like pull up an actual photorealistic flower, add a Gaussian blur or a focus or whatever where I want it, grab his palette knife and just start like carving at it and chunking it up a little bit in pieces and,
And
letting it fall
making
apart.
your reference photo.
Making
in
my reference from that.
minutes.
It takes literally 5 minutes to make like
That is
something that looks like
amazing.
I painted it. But I lost it when it transitioned from Gumroad, the things that I bought, the same thing you bought, to the one that's just built into
What the
Photoshop.
heck?
So that part sucks. But I forget where I was going with that, other than to illustrate how easy it is to do digitally.
And that's, I'd like to kind of bring it back around that way.
Yeah.
As I've been using digital art for better part of 10, 12 years or something.
Yeah.
So, and I was using Procreate when we still had the rubber nub dummy styluses and stuff.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I'm not saying I mastered it, but I got to a point where it wasn't exciting or challenging for me anymore. So now I'm going back to traditional and seeing what I can pull off.
Yeah. For a little while, you were doing like a drawing a day, a life drawing a day.
Yeah,
And
that
you did
was
it for,
part of. First, I did Figuary,
yeah.
which was life drawing with Kuroki Cafe and Love Life Drawing on YouTube. So they had this Figuary thing, which is much like Inktober.
Yeah.
And then once they just have these videos pop up, you go through, you draw them, post them, and then you just kind of build a community off of that. And then through that, Love Life Drawing set up an online drawing class where they went through the process of figure drawing. And, most all of that was from those step-by-step daily lessons or weekly lessons. I think there was 10 weeks of it.
Yeah.
And two lessons per week. And, it was hard as hell to get through that thing because
Was pretty
it's
helpful.
life. Yeah, I think I learned a lot about seeing better and being able to accurately and efficiently map out things.
Yeah.
That was the biggest thing,
Yeah.
because if you don't start with a good foundation, you're just carving away and trying to polish that turd, and it's just never getting where you want. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I still get up a lot of mornings and do like the YouTube. There are a few YouTube channels that just have like a live model, or I mean it's recorded obviously, but like a 2 minute. It'll be like a 30-minute video. It's got
Yeah,
2
so
minute
Croaky
poses.
Cafe
5
they
minute.
jumped over to Vimeo now because they can't be on YouTube.
Oh.
They still post on YouTube. They just say YouTube no longer supports our content, so jump over to Vimeo.
What-
Here's the
what
link. And it's
happened
free. Because it's full nudes and stuff like that.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So
Yeah, I do that, and the thing that I've learned that it helps me with so much is getting a gesture established, and
Yes.
I rarely even do the 5 and up poses anymore. I
Yeah.
try really quickly to get to grab that gesture as fast as I
and
can.
that was the biggest thing with that Love Life drawing course, that 10-week thing that I did, was the figure or the gesture.
Yeah.
Getting gestures figured out and how to make it easier, because they didn't go through an anatomicals. It was literally here's how this person does these strokes,
Yeah.
and we're going to draw this same thing together and using these strokes. Now you're going to turn this off and then go draw this again by yourself
Yeah.
and try to remember them strokes.
Right.
So much like you said in your seminar was,
Look at it.
trying to mimic what you see and then put it away and then mimic it. But it was guided and then
Yeah. Yeah.
self-run demonstration of the same exact drawing. It was really helpful, especially getting to figure out the shorthand of
Right.
gesture. That's the toughest part for me for gesture, is the shorthand, getting to know that triangle. This is how I make my feet.
Yeah.
And you can't just learn somebody else's shorthand. You have to develop your own when it comes to gesture, I found out.
Yeah.
Because I've tried a bunch of different ones, and I'm like, that just doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
that's why.
Excuse me. I think that I was saying that I found that a lot of times my natural tendency now is to establish a flow, repeat the flow, and then fight against the flow. Like flow,
Yes.
flow, break, flow, flow, break. And I think that came from practicing those gestural things, because I've had this terrible habit in tattooing for years, and people have written into the show and told me that I have flowy tattoos for the longest time. And what they mean by flowy tattoos, I've learned, is that everything was too obvious. I would establish a flow with
All
my
built
waves,
on
and
the figure eight.
Yeah, everything went with the flow, and it was like I didn't leave anything. There was nothing like really dynamic or interesting about it. It was too obvious. Like there was no mystery in it. There was no tension in it. It was just too perfect to the body or whatever. And so
It's strange when a compliment
yeah
can make you
ends up-
rethink.
Right. Yeah.
They're like trying to be like, yeah, they're so awesome and flowy. You're
flowy.
like, crap.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think anyone meant it mean. I think they
No,
meant
but
as a
you took it
compliment.
in a different direction
Yeah.
because of it. And that's just a strange shit about artists.
Right, right. But I like you were saying, developing your own shorthand or your own kind of gesture, like what do feet look like to
Right.
me, and trying to get that gesture quickly in 2 minutes of a figure. How do I get a shoulder coming forward if I'm only making the mark of how the shoulder and the neck cross each other? How do I give the illusion
Right.
that one's forward and one's back with just a couple of simple marks without like shading, without rendering? And it's tricky.
Yeah. I've taken a few of them. I did one with Steven Silver, and he's animation, predominantly, I believe. Anyway, his had so much emotion and movement, but he finished it all up with animation.
Oh, yeah.
So it was very cartoony and stylized stuff. But he was doing the same damn thing, but as soon as the next person that's a realism artist is doing that exact same skeleton, then I get it. It's just crazy
Yeah,
how
that
much
funny.
you got to just keep taking the same information from as many different sources as possible until all of a sudden it clicks.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
So-
and that's one thing to draw a parallel on that with all the new tattoo podcasts out there. We get asked fairly regularly. We're talking to other podcasters, new podcasters that are calling and saying, "Hey, I'm having audio trouble," or what did you do to fix this or to fix that?" And end up having conversations with these folks, and I think it's fantastic because you sit there and you've listened to the show and we've talked a lot of art over the last couple of years together, and I mean, I say the same shit over and over. If you haven't gotten what I say by now, time to find a new show. I'm not learning anything new. I mean, I'm not that I'm not learning anything new, but I'm presenting it the same way every time.
Right.
So the same thing with whether if you don't relate to the way an animator does something, maybe you relate to the way a realist artist presents the exact same information.
Exactly. But at the same time, in defense of your show,
Thanks.
it is various people
Yeah.
that you might be pulling it or interviewing in them and helping to pull that out of them, but it's different people saying the same thing. So you're still getting that same gist off of your show. It's not just you spouting.
Right. Yeah. Other people will bring in things, but I always end up like guiding the conversation into whatever I wanted it to go to, anyways.
Yeah, that's true.
But back to that idea of gesture, something that Steve Houston said I thought was so interesting. He asked the question, what makes a sketch worth framing and hanging in a gallery?
Yeah.
Like, how is
that
it good?
That question is always.
Yeah. What makes
I'm like, I love how this sketch looks. Nobody else gives a shit. They want the polished turd.
Yeah, yeah.
But
like,
this looks awesome.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like, and he had such an interesting idea on it. He was like, it's whenever it speaks the truth about whatever it's trying to say, whatever it's trying to represent. Like, and if that can happen in a couple of marks, and it really represents that idea well, then that's what it's about. And he was talking about how people come to your art. It's not about you. They come to you for what they need, not about what you want to say.
Yeah.
And so for that translated perfectly to me as a tattooer. Like, people don't come.
Correct.
Well, to some extent, they come to us, as we become more established for what we
Yeah.
do. But really, they're coming.
But
for
they still have a
something
voice
they
that
need
you want. They want you
to represent for them, or
Right.
or whatever it is. And that's. I thought that was such an interesting point that he made. That people come for what you. For what they want, and if you solved, he gave the example of, like, I'm going to paint a beautiful, woman. She's sitting on a couch, and it's dark. There's moonlight, and her blouse is open, her breasts are most exposed, and she's pale skinned, and then looming over her is a reaper, like a hooded reaper with a scythe, and it's death coming for the hot babe. He's like, I didn't leave anything up to you in that scenario. Like,
Correct.
There's nothing. I gave you all of the answers. There's nothing
And I
for
think
you to
that's the
explore.
difference between an illustrator
Yeah.
and a fine artist.
Yeah, maybe so.
I mean, when it comes down to it. Because the illustrator has to tell a specific story.
Yeah.
A fine artist can just,
Present an idea.
yeah,
Yeah.
present an emotion, a feeling
Yeah.
that you can relate to and you can interpret.
Yeah. Interpret it completely
Yeah.
in your own way. Yeah, and I
Kind
think
of like Jingle versus Bob Dylan. Commercial jingle versus what Bob Dylan wrote.
Yeah.
Nobody knows what he actually meant, but we can extrapolate whatever the hell we want out of it.
Well, yeah, whatever we want.
But a jingle only means that.
Right.
It only means double your pleasure, double your fun.
Right. Yeah, it's true. And so I think those are interesting thought experiments for tattooers, especially when you're consulting, when you're putting together compositions, and we're still fighting, I think, a lot of clientele that think that everything needs to be literally represented. If they're commemorating something, they want it all spelled out.
Yep.
And how we introduce abstract ideas to them, like, well, do you really need the birth and death date and the name and the whatever, or is his watch enough? The image of his watch that strikes you that reminds you so much of your dad.
Yeah. And that's, man, I wish there were some courses on that.
Yeah, me too.
Like, more like how to really connect with your clients and understand what they're thinking. And because a lot of us can do that, but there's a great many of us that cannot navigate them gently to where they should be going. They are just brash and nope, not doing it, outdoor.
Yeah. I think those are
And
psychology courses.
Yeah, but I mean, bring it into the tattooing because I don't want to sit through a psychology class.
Right.
But yeah, just to, I don't know, just be able to relate to customers better. There's a lot of tattooers that I just tell them this, I just tell them that. When we know they don't.
No. Yeah. Most of that is show for other tattooers.
They're puffing up to make everything sound good. But
Yeah. So back real quickly to that, to working on your gesture drawings. Did any of that, because that's been months ago now, did any of that translate to your tattooing? As far as how you're laying things on skin, are you thinking about?
Layouts.
Yeah.
My layouts got more efficient as far as composition. But so far, that's really the only thing I've noticed that has come directly into tattooing.
Yeah.
Is just being able to kind of figure out where I'm going. Again, like you said, you know, it got to the point where everything kept looking like an S shape or a figure eight, which you want that for the flow.
Yeah.
But when it literally looks like a figure eight, it's not the flow anymore. Now it's just an 8.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's helped with some of that kind of, mostly just because of the volume of figures that I've drawn, and I've continued doing it. I just really haven't been posting it online. I just kind of do it in my sketchbook in the morning because they are like crayon on cardboard. They're not great, but they. I'm really getting an idea for the emotion. You know how to pull an emotion out of a pose, rather than just it's some naked dude standing there. Now you can feel, I'm starting to understand the tension in his shoulders while he's standing there and things like that. So with those subtleties in the mark making, it is helping to be able to lay out a little bit. But that's the only thing I'm really starting to see in tattooing directly. But as a whole, it's helping me to see better too.
Yeah.
You know, get my eyes to see what is actually there instead of what I want to be there.
Yeah. What's your goal with those morning drawings? I showed a little quick video in the seminar of my morning free draws, and for me, it's just trying to see what's working for me that day, what I can see and what I can't see. What are you trying to do?
Yeah, and yours were far more polished than mine. Are literally more like a brain dump. I don't know if you're familiar with morning pages. So that's my morning pages. Yeah. Instead of taking 3 pages of longhand, just word vomit. Yeah. I'm simply doing that. I start out with scribbling shapes, just kind of making my hand and paying attention to how my shoulder is drawing. Yeah. Because I'm upright with the pencil held in a more of a Tillier style or whatever, and so I'm trying to draw with my shoulder, making the motions, and then if something doesn't start popping out that I can kind of carve away on, I'll jump to just doing the basic shapes, circle, cone, or sphere, cone, cube, and building them out. And I'll give myself 30 minutes of doing, up to 30 minutes of doing that. Once that's done, then I'll jump on to Vimeo for the Croquis Cafe, and I'll do one of those, and then that's my morning warm-up. And then it's off to start jumping to drawing for whatever days, tattoos and emails and all the stuff like that. So, because I get all my work done before I start actually tattooing. So when I'm done with tattooing, I'm done.
And you're a morning guy, right?
I'm a morning,
You're up early. What time are you starting that?
6 minimum.
Yeah.
Sometimes, depending on my dog's bladder, it might be 5.
Yeah.
So, but once he wakes me up, there's no point in going back to bed. So I just jump on the couch, turn the lights on, drink a big glass of water, and get after it.
Yeah.
So,
do you have any juice or creativity at night? Do you ever find yourself as a nighttime creator?
No.
Yeah.
I used to think I was.
Yeah.
I used to have it in my head that I was a night owl and I was cool, and then once I actually took the time to focus, get up and do it, and it actually audited what I was producing each day in different parts of the day, I found that I can get more done in the first 4 hours of the morning, and in the first 4 hours of one morning than I can all the nights of the rest of the week.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's efficiency.
Right.
So I just chose to start doing that instead. And
was that always the case for you, or when you were young you were
No, it's night owl. Stay up as late as possible, be late for work the next day all the time, and now it's just don't care.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I got things that I want to, I don't know, midlife crisis or whatever it is, but I got things I want to get done, and I want to get done as soon as possible because I don't have any patience. So the only way to get them done as soon as possible is to get after them.
Yeah, get up and do them. I know we've probably talked about it before, but procrastination is what led me to understand that I'm a morning person, because I would be drawing late at night for a tattoo for the next day, or even when I was in art school for a drawing that I had to have finished the next day for class. and it would be midnight, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm just making marks on the page that are haphazard, and they're not doing anything. They're making it's getting worse by the minute. And so I'd be like, shit, I'm just going to set my alarm and get up early. And I would get up early and pow, I would knock it out. 30 minutes, it's done. Or like I would literally get up in the morning, glance at what I was doing the night before, and just be like, who drew that shit? This is wrong and that's wrong, and just know it. Just know it. And
I can believe that.
Yeah, and I realized that, and I was just like, what am I doing, man? Go to bed at 9 o'clock. Get up in the morning and, get something done.
Nobody else is up, so nobody's taking your mental energy yet.
Yeah.
You can hammer away, get it all done. Nobody wants anything from you that early. Nobody else wants to be up.
Yeah.
And that's, it's just me and my dog in the morning.
Yeah.
Like I said, my big glass of water and a pot of coffee, and I'm go time.
Right.
But 9 o'clock comes, it's fucking nappy time.
I'm
fucking done.
Yep, I hear you. Me too. So, before we wrap up, the transitioning to some color realism, what have been the biggest hurdles? Not in the drawing, but from a technical standpoint, making that transition. Are you changing the way that you're making stencils?
Yes.
We had a big talk, or
very
not a big
much
talk,
so.
A talk yesterday about different types of photo reference.
Yeah.
You
So
hit a
this
little
weekend,
roadblock.
I had a chance to look at a piece. I started a Gandalf Lord of the Rings sleeve, actually.
Yeah.
The first piece was Gandalf, and the last piece was one of the orcs. But the three pieces in between that were Frodo, Samwise, and Legolas. The first one and the last one, the Gandalf and the orc, were both done with paper printed out reference sitting next to. But the other three were done with the iPad as my reference. And you saw it.
Yeah.
They were
Night and day.
horseshit.
Yeah. Well, I just think it was a huge,
there was, you could not tell that was that Legolas from the movie.
Oh,
it didn't look like him at all.
Yeah.
And so, I used the paper, and that was the only difference between all those tattoos.
Was the reference.
I didn't change my needles. I didn't change my pigments. Nothing. It was, and they were black and gray, but it was simply the reference. Because I was, what somebody told, I'm not sure who it was. I think it was Pooch, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
One of the bunch of seminars I take.
Yeah.
But he said that you're chasing the light.
Yeah.
You can't get white that bright.
Yeah.
And you can't get the rest of the colors that color either. So when you're chasing the iPad as your photo reference, you can't accurately translate it.
Yeah.
So when I started, I just went back to printing out my paper stencils and going from there. And it's hard with color because then you have to make sure that your screen is color calibrated, which isn't expensive. I think for $100, $150 you can get a monitor calibration device that you literally, it calibrates your monitor, you print something off, and it calibrates your printer and then matches the two together so that you're printing out what you see on your screen comes out on the paper color-wise. So there's no color shifts. But otherwise, the gamut's going to be smaller because you don't have any light behind it.
Yeah. So I was misunderstanding. I was thinking that your issue was just using two different types of reference, but you're saying you don't think that reference from an iPad works for you at all. Like you wouldn't
at all.
Yeah, you're
I won't do it anymore. No, I will print it out. If I can't print it out, then I don't know what I'd do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll just for the one I did here this weekend, I printed out 12 of them until I can get the color to print right from what I saw on the screen because I knew what I wanted to get. Yeah. And I can chase that color far easier and more accurately than I can on a screen. Yeah. Especially with battery levels and everything else.
Right.
Brightness level on your iPad will affect the color in your eyes because of the white hitting your eyes and then the room light. Yeah. Everything's so messed up. But if the paper is sitting next to the skin, you have the same. It's under the same light. Right. So you can chase it a lot easier.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes perfect sense. I should try that. I never print anything out. I'm always looking at the iPad. Now I'm rarely, if ever, doing photorealism or portraits or the work that you're doing there. So what I'm typically thinking is once I have some color or value down, I'm measuring everything else against what that
You're
is.
measuring against that, yeah. And what I was measuring at, because I'm trying to match what I'm seeing as opposed to matching what is already there.
Right, yeah.
So, if it was more of a painterly or illustrative or something like that, once I know, okay, this is going to be purple, here's my light source,
Yeah.
then it's just figuring out
How everything relates to that first few marks that you made.
I start laying everything out, and then I really don't need the reference except for to remind me, oh, no, that space right there in between those two lines, that's supposed to be colored, the other one's not.
Yeah.
That's really all my reference for after that. So that I could use an iPad. But as far as matching realism, I can't do it.
Yeah, yeah. One last.
I have the evidence now to prove it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, luckily, like we were talking about the other day, it might. I mean, obviously, you'll have to render the one that was from the iPad reference because it's so much lighter than everything else. Yeah. But I think just from like an abstract standpoint, like standing away from that tattoo, looking at it from over here at your booth, thinking about just dark and light shapes, it's an interesting dynamic of shape. So you may be able to leave that thing way lighter and just render it.
Right, and that is supposed to be lighter too because of the face that it was using. As far as the whole composition of the sleeve, but the face didn't look like who it was supposed to look like.
Yeah,
that was the problem.
Yeah, gotcha.
So I was grabbing a lighter gray than what I needed to because I saw it lighter on the screen, and this was just for a black and gray.
Yeah,
you jump color into that thing, and it's a whole different ball game.
Right. One last thing I want to hit on before we wrap up is. You do as well anyone that I know of coming from a small town with not a lot of reference, not a lot of you work in a private studio. There's no one else with you, and we've got enough people that write into the show that come from small towns that feel like they're in dead end apprenticeships or dead end shops, and they're not learning. And you didn't try to go to another shop. You haven't moved to a big city. But what you do is you take all the online courses you can. You travel and take workshops.
I absorb as much information as fast as possible.
Yeah.
But more importantly than I think any of that, I get off my ass and go talk to people.
Yeah.
I introduce myself to people and run the risk of them being a dick.
Yeah. That happens.
And meet them. And that's how I got to know you. That's how I got to know any of the name drop shout outs, get my Evan Qualls counter up. But all the number of people that I've gotten to meet over the last few years is mind numbing. People I was seeing in magazines and stuff. I'm Podunk, North Dakota. I mean, like literally landlocked. You ain't disappearing much deeper unless you're in the desert.
Yeah.
So, that's the biggest thing. Just get off your ass, go introduce yourself, and don't be a dick, and then see where it takes you.
Yeah.
You know.
And I think I think you could go back. I don't know if you update your Instagram profile at all, but I guarantee if you don't, that I can flip back a ways and just watch the progress just skyrocketing.
I hope so.
Yeah, I think so. Just in the time I've known you.
Because I try to stay on top of the Instagram and stuff like that. And then my website, trying to make sure that's fairly updated and stuff.
Yeah.
And, the algorithm crap and everything else.
Yeah.
So I've taken some time to go back and cut some stuff out, but it's usually like, hey, I'll be at this show this weekend. I'll try to go back and cull some of that. But for the most part, I leave it as honest as possible. Did I do a shitty drawing there and post it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And there it is.
Right.
Yeah. I try to be as honest as possible.
Yeah.
And but I'm glad for the internet and social media just to be able to go back and look at all the last 2 or 3 years, and I do it fairly regularly, about once a quarter, probably once every 3 months. I'll go back through because I keep all my photos in Lightroom. And have everything organized in there, and I'm fairly good with keeping that organized. And I can just scroll, and all of a sudden, bam, I'm up at the back of my beginning of my career. Yeah. And I can jump to the next year and the next year, and it's you take it in the shorts. That's why when you did it, when you did that.
Portfolio
S8
critique.
episode when you were looking at your own stuff. He's like, man, where'd you dig this up at?
Yeah, man. They went back in the
By
archives.
shorts,
like,
I was like,
whoa.
Damn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah, thanks.
That took it in the shorts. I
Yeah,
bet.
they threw me for a loop with a few of those. Like they had shown me a few that they were going to use, and then they switched a couple up on me, and I was like, "Oh, wow! I wouldn't have put that out there, but all right, good for you guys."
Yeah, way to get it.
Yeah.
It was nice. You could tell on your face it was legit that
Yeah,
you were surprised that
Yeah, it
they
was.
picked that one. So
I was. It was fun. I enjoyed it, and I think the thing that I love about looking back at stuff like that is you remember that experience. Like I can look at all of those tattoos. Like I said on the episode, like they asked, well, how did you think the client felt about this, or how did you feel about this? I'm like, well, I took a photo and put it in my portfolio. What do you think? I thought it was awesome.
Yeah.
I thought I nailed it. Like,
Yeah.
it was a different era of tattooing, but you look at those things and you're like, I know exactly why I took a photo of that. There's a problem that I solved there that I'd never solved before.
Yeah.
Now maybe I didn't solve it in the right way, but it was my first hint at the direction that maybe it was just something as simple as I got a solid field of red.
Right.
And that was the first time I'd done that or something.
Your dart finally hit the board.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you might not have got a bullseye, but you're getting close.
Yeah.
And that's a big deal.
Right.
And to be able to scroll back through your old stuff, just once in a while to remind yourself that you are getting better.
Yeah.
That's a boost.
Yeah.
It's a hell of a, because everybody can,
Right.
give you the old pat on the back and
Yeah.
and tell you, oh, you're amazing, but they're only comparing your art to their own abilities.
Yeah.
Just like we compare our own art to the masters.
Right.
It's like, oh, I suck compared to Caravaggio and
You
all the
do.
rest. Yeah, we all suck,
Yeah. Yeah, we all suck compared to a whole lot of people.
but you just got to remember you're getting, as long as you're better than you were yesterday.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
keep pushing forward. And
It's
if you don't have that drive, get the fuck out.
right. Yeah.
If you don't want to get better every day, then just
Yeah, it's that gap mentality that we've talked about on this show before, where you set a standard of this is where I want to be. You look at whoever it is, name your favorite artist, and you say that's where I'm trying to go, and you use that as a guiding light, but you can't use it as a measuring device. You can't measure against it. You measure against what you did yesterday. But if you're measuring against that guiding light, you'll quit. You'll never get
Right.
there. None of us, neither
know
of us
what?
will ever make.
Speaking
a
of all
masterpiece.
this,
What's that?
so I'm one of those freaking productivity nerds or whatever.
Yeah.
And I got this morning on my daily quotes app.
Oh, yeah. I do love quotes.
Yeah, so this popped up this morning. No shit. Oh, yeah. A goal is not always meant to be reached. It often serves simply as something to aim at.
Yeah.
Bruce Lee.
Oh, Bruce Lee.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
How about appropriate for that?
Right.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's perfect. So,
Yep.
all right, let's wrap this thing up. We've probably been talking forever. You guys are half asleep. You don't care. You can't even. You can't even hear us.
Lullaby and good night.
All right, man. Thank you so much. Like I said, thanks for coming back on the show. Thanks for everything. Let me use
Absolutely.
your inks and all your stuff all weekend and driving me around.
Hell yeah.
And all-
It was
taking my
fun. I had a good
seminar.
time.
Me too. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you to Roughrider. I guess this is probably going to be our last episode here. It's getting close to close down time. We got to find some food somewhere.
Trough up.
Thank you, Fireside folks, for supporting what we do. Thank you, Pool Boy, for just being you, wearing that badass Baxter-ish keyboard. See you guys next time. Thanks a lot.